A7 MD, which I think might be trying to spell Ahmed. I don't know. So I'm just going to call him A7 MD. He made several claims trying to defend his prophet's marriage to Aisha when she was 6 years old, according to Sahih Bukhari 5134, where it says, narrated Aisha, that the prophet married her when she was 6 years old and consummated the marriage when she was 9. So let's break down his claims. Augustine was never married, although by his own admission he was quite active before he became Christian. Augustine's mother tried to get him to marry, and so she set him up with a girl. In his book Confessions, Augustine says, yet the matter was pressed forward and proposals were made for a girl who was as yet some 2 years too young to marry. Specifically, the girl was 10, with the age of marriage being 12. He later cancelled the marriage after converting to Christianity. So, he's wrong there. Richard II did in fact marry a 7-year-old, that being Isabella of Valois, which means France. France. But yes, he married her when she was 7. And Richard married her for purely political reasons, with historians even describing it as an adoption, saying that Richard and his wife viewed Isabella as a child they never had. The marriage never being consummated because she was a child, and Richard had standards, unlike a certain soot lover from Arabia. Now, Henry VIII had 6 sorry wives, and some might say he ruined their lives, but none of them were 6. Catherine of Aragon was about 23, Anne Boleyn was in her mid-20s, while Jane Seymour was in her late 20s, Anne of Cleves was 24, Catherine Howard was actually his youngest wife at 17, and Catherine Parr was 31. Now, yeah, sure, Catherine Howard being 17 with Henry being, 50, something like that. There's a massive age difference, which is a bit questionable, and that's still so much better than, 50 and 6. Or 50 and 7, according to Sahih Muslim. On to the next claim. Before 1929, Church of England ministers could marry 12-year-olds. Well, under common law, the minimum age for marriage was in fact 12 for girls and 14 for boys. However, marriage like that had fallen out of fashion centuries earlier, and marriage under the age of 16 were rare and required parental and church approval. He also tried claiming that the Catholic Encyclopedia says that Mary was 12 and Joseph was 99. It doesn't. The Catholic Encyclopedia quotes the non-canonical Proto-Evangelium of James, or Gospel of James. Let's use fancy words when we can just say gospel. It's not like we have an English language. Where it says, and when she was 12 years old, there was held a council of the priests, saying, behold, Mary has reached the age of 12 years old in the temple of the Lord. What then shall we do with her, lest perchance she defile the sanctuary of the Lord? With the Catholic Encyclopedia saying, it will not be without interest to recall here, unreliable though they are, the lengthy stories concerning St. Joseph's marriage contained in the apocryphal writing. So at least the Catholic Encyclopedia calls the Proto-Evangelium of James unreliable. So no, it doesn't say that Mary was 12 and Joseph was 99. Specifically, it doesn't say Joseph was 99. The Proto-Evangelium of James says he was 90. They've just pulled the 99 out of their arse. And finally, yes, prior to the 1983 Code of Canon Law, the marriage ages were 14 for girls and 16 for boys for Catholic marriages. However, in most countries, especially most Christian countries and not Muslim countries, civil law had already raised the marriage age to 16 to 18, and priests can't override civil law, making it essentially similar to fishjenga, where it's still illegal to handle a salmon suspiciously, but you won't be prosecuted if you and your mates get drunk and play fishjenga. And it's important to note that all of the actually true examples are older than 6, and none of the people are considered to be moral examples for mankind. So even if all of his examples were true, that still doesn't defend Muhammad marrying Aisha when she was 6 and having sex with her when she was 9.